Hello there everyone, this is Phantom Dudes here, and today I'm going to be doing part 1 of a remake that I made a long time ago. This is my remake of What If Deku Was the Omni King. And I want to apologize for being gone for so long. I really didn't have much ideas of what to create for another What If, but now I got some ideas to create, and I'm planning on making more remakes towards a lot of the What Ifs that I failed to continue. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. Let's just continue with that What If. The What If is going to start at the beginning of the USJ where everybody arrives. Mr. Aizawa will just give his normal speech with the other hero that's there. As the speech will go on, a lot of people would notice that the area will be full of different disasters or different arenas with different disasters that most heroes would face. As 13 and Mr. Aizawa would tell them that today they will be learning about what heroes would face throughout their life journey as being heroes and climbing through the ranks of trying to prove themselves as good heroes or bad ones, looking at Bakugo. Mr. Aizawa will be looking at Bakugo. As Aizawa would continue, and as he would continue talking, 13 would speak. But everyone has to understand, in this place you will all learn how to control your quirks and know how dangerous or how useful they would be in certain areas. As she would explain that her quirk is like a black hole. She has the power to absorb stuff or how can I say this? Project them back at somebody. As Aizawa would say, on the other hand, my quirk isn't that dangerous. I only cancel people's abilities. I can use them in a lot of areas. But 13's quirk, she has to be careful of what she uses it for. But one teacher was also missing. All Might was missing during this event, which everybody was disappointed. Even Mr. Aizawa, he was expecting All Might to be here to teach the students. But in the middle of nowhere, everyone would out of nowhere hear voices or a laughter coming from the center of the USJ, where a portal will appear. As Eraserhead recognizes a bunch of villains coming through the portal. As he said, "Wait, is this a part of the trial?" But 13 would just notice that there would be a bunch of villains being led by 3 mysterious ones. One of them would notice that All Might is not among them, and as the mysterious villain would ask one of his workers, where was All Might? He was supposed to be there teaching the class according to the schedule, but he would say that he wasn't there. As this person was Shigaraki would be disappointed as he would notice that All Might wasn't there. But he would only see Mr. Aizawa and 13. As Eraserhead noticed that these were the villains that truly the recent villains who enter UA high school a couple of weeks ago. One of the villains would be known as Tomura Shigaraki, which was the name that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. The person who was disappointed that the symbol of peace wasn't there, as he would tell everybody that if the symbol of peace doesn't arrive, every student there would be murdered. Eraserhead would take charge, but he would also order 13 to evacuate the students and contact UA High School. But Izuku, as always, being a concerned and hero in training, but also having One for All. Yes, this is the main storyline until this point. Izuku being concerned about fighting Shoto, fighting against the villains, aka Eraserhead, but Eraser had reassured him and leaps into the battle. A firing squad sets their sights on Eraserhead, but he uses his quirks to cancel each of their abilities and knocks them out. Using his capture weapon, the villains quickly recognize him as the pro hero Eraserhead and reveal his quirk before a mute type quirk using villain confronting him. The villains know Eraserhead quirk can't cancel out his own attacks. Eraserhead easily counters them by keeping the villains at a distance using the capturing weapon. Meanwhile, Izuku realized he underestimated his teacher. As Ida tells his surprise friend to move as they follow 13 in Class 1A in an attempt to evacuate, but the villain Kurogiri stops them by using his quirk, wrapping them. As he introduced himself as one of the members of the League of Villains, disclosed their goal is to kill All Might. Bakugo and Kirishima attacked him, but to no avail. There was no chance of hitting him. Before 13 can use her quirk on him, Kurogiri separated the class by warping them into various simulation zones. Izuku's teleported underwater in a shipwreck zone. A shark-like villain attempted to devour him, but he is sent drowning by a kick from one of his classmates. After dispatching the villain, Tsuyu used her tongue to throw Izuku into a ship and follow close behind with Mineta on her back. They talked about the concern regarding the villain's plan to kill All Might. But both Mineta and Tsuyu would look at Izuku with disgust, but they wouldn't bother since they are in danger. Izuku would be confused as he noticed that again they're both giving him a disgusted look. As Izuku proclaims that it's the class job to be here and protect All Might. As everyone who was in their simulation zone would be nervous right now, but they would try to gather some courage and continue fighting. As many members of Class 1A fought back against the villains after being transported into their own respective simulations. At UA in the nurse office, All Might tries to contact 13 and Shoto, but is unable to. As All Might wants to go to the USJ in hero form soon, but the principal Nezu keeps him occupied. Nezu believes All Might needs to be a responsible teacher and lectures him for exhausting himself with hero work. As All Might would get a question from Nezu, "Are you sure you chose the right kid?" As All Might would say, "I don't think I did. He has made no progress. He's even more useless than I thought he would have been. I thought his hero courage would take him somewhere, make him learn how to use the power, but I don't know why I gave it to the kid." As Netsu would say, he's a good kid, just that he's not the right one for you, All Might. We need somebody to be strong enough to use your quirk and have the knowledge. Deku isn't really someone to be given the quirk. As we go back to the USJ, 13 outlined that Ida needs to run back to the school for help because they are unable to call for help from the USJ. Ida is hesitant, believing that leaving his classmates behind is disgraceful. His classmates restore his confidence and encourage him to use his quirk to save others as rescue training was intended. Kurogiri overhears this, 13's plans and tries to intervene, but the space hero uses her quirk to suck him into a black hole. The villains have Izuku, Minoru, and Tsuyu ships surrounded, but they refuse to board it. While Izuku strategizes, Mineta and Tsuyu would look at him and still feel disgusted being near him. Because they're disgusted because they are just being dragged down by somebody who doesn't know how to use their quirk, doesn't know what power they even have, and doesn't know how to control it. Every time he tries to use it, he just ends up injured. As both of them would just be looking at Deku with nothing but a plain look. As Deku would notice this, but he wouldn't mind it. He noticed that ever since the test, everybody has just been looking at him like a piece of trash on the side. As one of the villains uses his water manipulation quirk to strike the ship and break it into pieces. Before the ship would sink, Izuku ignites his plans. He jumps off the ship and uses his Delaware Smash on the surface of the water to make it spread out and collect rapidly back together. The coverage water trap the villains with a vortex mixed with Mineta's sticky spears, which keeps them stuck together. With the villains defeated, Tutsuyu uses her tongue to grab her comrades and escape to the shipwreck zone. I apologize for not knowing how to say her name. She's one of the most important characters that I need to remember names, so yeah, I apologize for that. As Isuku, Mineta, and Tutsuyu escaped the shipwreck, having just defeated a group of villains, there was a combined effort of their quirks and quick thinking, but it was truly just Isuku thinking fast. So then we go to the land sign. Basically Todoroki freezes a number of villains as they are wrapped there. He evaluates the situation and deduces that the villains who accompany Tomura and Kurogori are nothing but small-time thugs. Two more evildoers try to get on the drop on Shoto, but he easily evades their attacks and freezes their body. As we skip a couple of minutes later, we will see Eraser continues to repel the villains at the central plaza until he is confronted by Tomura. The ringleader manages to damage Eraserhead's elbow using his decay quirk, but Mr. Aizawa would use his head swiftly as a retreat. As Tomura points out the weakness of his quirk but compliments him on lasting before the heroes is suddenly challenged by a large monstrous villain. 13 tries to use her quirk to destroy Kurogiri, but he turns it on her and puts the rescue hero out of commission. Ida tries to escape through the exits and Kurogiri cuts him off. As one of the classmates grabs Kurogiri, giving Ida a path to exit. Isuku, Tutsuyu, and Mineta reaches the center of the area only to find their teacher has been defeated by a bioengineer monster called the Nomu. In a battle at the ruined zone, Bakugo and Kurishima finish off the remaining villains. Ichiro wants to go save his classmates, worried that they don't have the offensive ability he and Katsuki do, aka Bakugo. Bakugo argues that their peers can handle themselves against the weaker villains, that he should focus on defeating Kurogiri, which would trap the villains in the USJ. Ichiro is impressed by Bakugo's calm and rational personality. Well, demeanor, not personality. Having become used to his angry and aggressive personality. Meanwhile, at the other zone, members of 1A continue to battle against the villains. But then we would skip a couple more minutes later, where we then see the Nomu fighting Mr. Aizawa. As Mr. Aizawa would be getting punched by the Nomu. But out of nowhere, the Nomu would be sent flying by a kick from Deku. As Deku's leg would be broken after doing that kick, as he would be landing next to Mr. Aizawa, walking on one foot, telling him, Mr. Aizawa, as Mr. Aizawa would notice Deku's leg was broken after he did that. As Mr. Aizawa would tell him, kid, why would you do that? As Deku would then tell him, it is what it is, trying so hard not to cry because of the attack. As everybody would then see, Isuku would limp back in front of Mr. Aizawa, telling him, hey, at least there's one thing I can do, and that is to protect you guys. As Deku would then get on a fighting stance, as Shigaraki would laugh at him. Shigaraki would continue laughing at him, telling him that there's no point, kid. You're barely able to stand, and you think you're gonna be able to fight this monster. And Shigaraki would reveal that the Nomu is a bioform created with a full set of different quirks, from super regeneration to super strength to almost every quirk that All Might could have, and more. As Shigaraki would say, this monster was created to kill All Might. As Deku would then look at himself and say, well, kill All Might. I don't think I can do much about this. in his head, Deku will be saying this, as you would notice, well, maybe this is the last time I'll ever use this quirk, because I feel like I won't be able to win this. As Deku in this storyline would be more realistic to himself, not some lie that he could probably win this. As Deku would say, it's worth giving it a shot, as Deku suddenly would see his whole body would be glowing, as he would try to use one for all in his entire body. As Deku said in his head, I only got a couple of seconds before I get injured. As Deku launched himself from his leg that was barely able to stand, injuring him more. He injured both of his legs. Barely able to stand, he would launch himself towards the normal, punching him, barely moving the normal this time, as the normal would just move his head back to look at Deku directly. As he said, well, as the normal would look at Deku and tell him, what am I saying? The normal can't talk. As the normal would look at Deku and punch him, sending him flying directly to a wall. As Deku would have a bunch of broken body parts, since he used one for all, but while also getting punched from the normal, who has a super strength quirk. The strength quirk would increase the injuries in Deku's body, as Deku would have a bunch of broken limbs, from a broken shoulder to a couple of broken ribs. Deku this time would notice he has no chance but to try and hold off the normal, as his classmates were just watch from far away, doing nothing but just standing. Bakugo would just grin, and Todoroki would just stand there trying to figure out what to do. He doesn't want to let a person who can barely fight to save his life to die. As Deku would just smile at Todoroki, who seemed to be worried about him. But he would notice everybody would just be there standing, plain expression, no emotions. Not even Ugar, not even the girl he met at the beginning of the school year would look at him. As Deku would then say, so my suspicions were right. I'm just somebody who isn't really meant to be a hero. As Deku would then get up again, barely able to move, barely able to stand, as all his body would be completely damaged. As Deku would then jump out of the hall, making one for all turn on one more time, as he said, this is probably the last time I'll be able to use it, since I know if I use this one more time, everything is going to be gone if I do this. As Deku fully charged one for all on his whole body and said, well, let's see if you can handle this one for all 100%. As Deku's body was little by little getting destroyed, as he then said, I'm probably not gonna be able to move after this, as Deku launched himself at a speed that nobody could see. But before Deku could do anything, the normal put up his fist and punched him directly into the ground. As Deku's mouth would spit out blood, making everyone be shocked, as they would notice Deku would be dying right now, as the normal continued punching the ground, as Deku out of nowhere. And yes, the image that you see on the screen that's not Deku right now. That's about to be him in a couple of more seconds. As Deku, who was on the ground getting punched, would then hear something in his voice. Well, this is interesting. As out of nowhere, Deku's conscience would be pulled into another place, as he would see that he's still able to move, but would also notice that he's nowhere near the high school or the USJ. He's just in a white plain area. But then out of nowhere, Deku would see a tiny person with purple and blue stripes on himself moving or floating towards him. As Deku would ask, who are you exactly? As the person would say, you're different than what I expected. Most people that I bring here are dead, or they would already have a knowing of who I am. But from what I've seen, you're perfect for what I want somebody for. And you also seem to have some type of heritage towards me. As Deku would notice, this person said heritage. As Deku would say, wait, what heritage? Where the person would then tell Deku, heritage. So you don't know about it. Your mom didn't tell you. It's insane. I am the Omni King. I'm not originally from this place, but since time has went on, I think the Earth that I once watched lost a lot of its knowledge towards the universe and ki. After a long time, I would understand why you wouldn't know who I am. As Deku would look at him confused and ask, can we speed this up? I think I'm dying. As the Omni King would tell Deku, alright, you could think you're dying. Let me see something. As he would wave his hand and a screen would appear and see that then the Omni King would look at Deku and say, well, you're kinda right, you are dying. But not as bad as you think you are. It's just a couple of injuries. Yeah, no, your life is you're near at death. As Deku would start whining like, huh? Really? I'm near death? As the Omni King would then tell him, yep. There's really nothing you can do about it. As Deku would then just fall on the ground of the white void that he was in. But there is something. As Deku would look at him. There is one thing you can do. Give up one for all. As Deku would look at the Omni King and say, how do you know what that is? As the Omni King says, I watch every realm. I'm basically the god of this world, but not at the same time. I watch every realm that includes this realm, which is just a parallel universe of my universe. In my universe, people like you have something called ki. Ki is basically the quirks which makes life fair everywhere. You can unlock it and at any life form, any being can have it. In this world, quirks is so unfair. As I can see, you were born without one, and that might be my fault. As Deku would look at him and say, how is it your fault? You look like you haven't even seen the world. As Deku would then get a blank stare from the Omni King as he says, oh, I'm older than you. I just have this appearance just because I have to look like this in my other universe. As he would snap, out of nowhere, he would look like himself again. An old man with a long white beard, as he would say, I am the old Omni King. I am very old and I have to watch every universe. But because of me being able to be in too many timelines, I have to make sure I have my younger appearance because people don't know that I basically return to a certain age once I go through every universe that I watch. If I go back to my main universe, I go back to being younger. If I go to this universe or this area, I go back to being my normal age. But to tell you the truth, you and me share the same blood. You are a part of the Omni King's heritage, meaning you should be the one watching this world, not me. As Deku would look at him and say, huh? How am I supposed to be the one watching this world? As the Omni King would smile and said, the only reason I say this is because you have the blood of a deity, meaning you should be able to use ki and have my abilities and many more. As Deku would look at him and say, so you're my father or what? As the Omni King would laugh and say, no, I am your how many grades is in this universe? The ki generation would have died like four generations. That's 3 generations. Yeah, I am your great grandfather. Yeah, like that. As Deku will look at him and say, huh? As the Omni King would say, yes, I am your great grandfather. Your mother is a part of a clan, which would be a very famous family in this world that died out two generations back, meaning your whole mother's family was dead. She was the only one alive. As Deku would say, so you came to meet me because of what? Because I need you to watch this universe. I'm getting tired of watching every universe. And I will also tell you why you're quirkless. You're quirkless because Ki does not allow you to have a quirk. Your quirk is called omnipotent. You have almost every power, or not almost every power. You just have Ki to the point where you can control and have knowledge of everything. Your power is above almost everything here. You can control time, destroy it if you want to. Well, time is under your command, not control it. Time is under your command. Meaning if you ask time to do something for you, they have to listen, because if you get angry, you might destroy it. That was a bad habit of mine when I was here in this world. Deku would look at his grandfather and say, "Wait, you had a bad habit of destroying time." As Deku would nod, no, as the Omni King would nod and say, "Yes, that was one of my habits. But now that you are gonna be the Omni King, well, I'm waiting for you to agree. You only have," he looked at the screen again. "You only have a minute before you die, so you better agree." As the Omni King would look at him and say, "Will you agree to take your place as one of the Omni Kings in this world, and also the Watcher of the timelines? But in return, if you agree, you have to let go of One For All. As you can see, it isn't really fitting for you." As Deku will look at his grandfather and just say, "If I take this power, I have to watch timelines, but I could also live my life." Yeah, because you still have to, as the Omni King would say in a friendly voice, as he would go back to his younger form. Yeah, because you still have to train with your power. Even though you have every knowledge in the world, time doesn't really affect you, and you have all the strength you would want if you accept the powers. There will be nothing that can really stop you, just yourself, because you don't have really much training with your power. As Deku would just look at his grandfather and say, "I accept these powers. I would have to train, but I would also be given a lot of knowledge, and also everything would have to listen to me. Yes, everything. But not until you get to the point where you have full control of your power. You just have enough command to make everything non-harm anybody when you say or when you look at it. If you want something to not be harmed, you just gotta look at it. You just gotta look or say one word, and they'll listen to you, because they know that if you wanted it to, this whole place could be bloop, gone." As the Omni King would then look at Deku again and say, "So, do you accept my offer?" As Deku would then say, "Well, alright, I accept the offer." As the Omni King would say, "Great, now I can go on vacation. Holy shit." As Deku would say, "Huh? Vacation?" As Deku said, the Omni King would then tell him, "Yeah, vacation. You really think I want to be here? I'm your grandfather." "Yeah, but goddamn, do you know how long I had to watch you to be able to get you to the point where you can die for me to talk to you?" As the Omni King would then get a blank look from Deku and say, "You were waiting for me to get this injured for you to talk to me?" "Yeah, the only way for you to get to this place is if you're almost at death. Unless you already accepted the heritage of the Omni King, you won't be able to get to this place without death, like I said." As Deku was saying, no wonder I'm here right now." As the Omni King would then tell him, "Yeah, I hope you enjoy the power now that you agree." As he would then snap again, "I am going on vacation, my grandson. Have fun with the powers." As then the Omni King would be in front of Deku and would flick him on the head. As out of nowhere, Deku's whole body would disappear from the white void. In the white void, we would go back to the present timeline, or Deku's timeline, where Deku would be getting punched by the Nomu, as everyone would just look at him. As Shigaraki would tell the Nomu to stop. Will tell the Nomu to stop, but before the Nomu could stop, the last punch the Nomu was about to throw was grabbed by Deku, as a beam of energy was thrown directly onto Deku. The beam of energy would then be, as the image on the screen that you see right now would be Deku. His one green hair would turn white, and his green eyes would just be a little bit whiter, but they'll still be there. As Deku would then get up from the floor, fully healed, no marks, and one throw would be nowhere near, or will be returned to All Might, as All Might would feel his power be back, as All Might would be already rushing towards the USJ because of Ida telling him. As Deku would then look at the Nomu and say, "Well, I don't understand much of my powers yet, but I kinda have a hint because of my grandfather. I hope you enjoyed the beating you were giving me, but now that I have this, I don't think you'll be here for long." As Deku would put up his hand up like he was about to do a Hakai, as he said, In the name of the Omni King, I don't need you in this universe." As Deku said that, the Nomu was erased from existence. As everyone would see, the air would turn into a white light, or like a white lightning. Well, no, a white dust would appear with black stripes around Deku, like that. The thing that you see in the background of the images would be what everybody would be seeing, as the Nomu would be fully gone. Nothing but dust would be seen. As Deku would then look at Shigaraki and say, "This is the only time I'll be able to use my powers, so you have a choice. I can't erase anybody now because that's the law that I was put on by my grandfather." As Shigaraki would say, "Who are you? Why do you have this power? Who are you, kid? Why?" As Deku would say, "Are you a crybaby or are you a grown child?" As Shigaraki would then rush at Deku, and Deku would just dodge, as he said, "Anytime now, I'm probably gonna fall and unconscious for a couple of days, so yeah, I might as well use this power right now." As Deku put up his fist and say, "I can't erase you, I can't use ki yet because I haven't trained with it, so I hope you enjoy this punch." As Deku just swing this punch so slow that it looked like it wasn't gonna hurt him. It wasn't gonna hit anybody, but when Deku landed the punch, Shigaraki was sent directly into through 3 buildings. As Deku said, not even holding back can you survive that." But then Deku would then feel the barrier of the gods pulling them down, as the same thing that happened to Goku during the Tournament of Power when he was about to finish gearing off with his Ultra Instinct that happened to Deku. The restrictions of almost reaching the power of a god came to Deku, and he will fall to the floor without energy in his body. Hurting, but would be aching, just not fully hurting, because his whole body would be healed from accepting the Omni King's power. As we all know, the Omni King is immortal. We don't know what happened to his father, whoever was the Omni King before him, because it could be a different story with the Omni King. But from this story, I'm gonna say the Omni Kings are immortal, which makes Deku immortal too. He won't be fully immortal until he's like reached a full age, or the full control of the power. But he's immortal right now because his body needs to heal. He has full-blown regeneration. That's all I'm gonna say. As Deku would fall on the ground, the Nomu would be erased and Shigaraki would be gone. As All Might would arrive saying, "I am here." And this is where I'm going to be leaving it off. Thank you guys for watching. This is Phantom Deuce here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.